Go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10:36. I'm Richard Paul, with Nebraska VR, and kick it off tonight.
Court Barber with MAPA.
Alicia Johnson, Chief of Representative.
Lindsay Button with MAPA.
Lisa Manuel, MAPA.
Corey Hill, Community Ones.
Danny Johnson, City of Kansas.
Melanie Davis, Mineral Water Institute.
We do this full time. Anybody online, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Mark with Southwest Iowa Transit Agency.
Haley Stanley with City of La Vista.
Brenna Sears filling in for Donna and Papillion.
And can you ask them if anybody else is having a hard time hearing court?
Is anybody else having a hard time hearing court?
Yeah, online court. For some reason you sound muffled or very far away. If you could move towards Lindsay, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Why towards me?
Now, I won't be the only one talking in the room. Is this better? Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I could hear you fine from there, dude. So I hear it better now. Thank
You hear me okay? Carlos, can you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you a lot better now, Court.
Okay.
Proceed. Musical chairs. All right, so first action item is approval of past minutes. So let's focus on July 17th. Was there any revisions or yeah, really just any revisions to that one? If I recall, Court, didn't we go through and at least ask for revisions on the last one, even though they didn't farm?
July was revised. That's why I believe the issue was that, well, I think there was I'm pretty sure we had correct, Tammy's name was misspelled. I think that might have been the only one from July. Anyway, July did have revisions, and that's why it's still on this list, because we tried to approve it in August and missed it. Or we might have tried it in September, I don't know. No, we tried it in August. I don't know. Anyway, my record indicate that July wasn't approved yet. There was a revision. Revisions have been made, and now being presented for approval.
We can do these all at once, right?
Yep.
All right. Any revisions on July 17th? Hearing none. What about September 18th? Hearing none. And I assume we're not going to do October's because of it being. You don't have one yet, never mind. All right, October 16th.
And I'll note that October and December, you have not seen before. July and September, have been, presented before, just didn't have the ability to vote on.
And October 16th was the movie experience that we did for the demonstration.
Correct.
So any revisions or modifications to October 16th? And hearing none. What about December 18th? Or I would say change the meeting order. It's currently at 10:02. I don't think we would have probably 32.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah, I'll make that correction. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
No other revisions to December 18th? I know these last two are new, so I'll pause. Does anybody need any more time? Somebody like the motion to approve all July 17th, September 18th, October 16th, and December 18th minutes? Motion to approve. The second? Second. There you go. That was done. First and second.
Oh, well,
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. All right, now for some discussion items.
yes.
Policies or the civil rights policy?
Yeah, so we, I brought civil rights policy for the committee in December, basically letting everybody know that MAPA was opening a public comment period on it. That comment period ended 6th, is that right? January 6th. This will ultimately go to our board next week. I have got most of them to focus on that, the timeline on it. Yeah, next Thursday it'll go to our board. If you still have comments on the plan, you can still send those in. We can bring those. If they're small enough, we can make the edits. And if they're major revisions, we'll bring those up with CPAC and the board. It could be that we end up needing to amend something in or something like that. But there is still a chance to get your comments in if you have turned anything in yet. We didn't receive any public comments. No. We did not receive any public comments on the draft. That's kind of where it sits. Does anybody have anything related to the policy that they want to bring up now?
All right. So one thing, we talked about this in our smaller meeting with Court and Melanie. But the way my stance on the CTC's approval on the civil rights piece, what I put down here is that we have brought to 2 different meeting agendas, as well as an email going out to all participants to read it. And if their own agency had comment, to utilize the public comment period that was December 15th through January 6th. As Court also noted, there's always the option to amend it. Nothing's set in stone. From my perspective, I think it's a lot to ask for a formal committee approval when it's 49 pages. And that's kind of my big piece on that. I don't want, unless we're going to review a document within our allotted time, I feel uncomfortable bringing it to a vote, knowing that if I feel that way, many of us might also. Going forward, I would also recommend, and I know for one, I want to recognize there's a lot of time and effort put into those pages. I mean, no disrespect by saying the number of 49 pages. I would like to share maybe going forward to make it a little bit easier to go through and review a document is because in those 49 pages, I personally don't know how much of that was changed. Because if things have been in there several years, granted, you know, it doesn't need as thorough of a look as maybe as something that's brand new. So one common practice that I've seen in the past is anything that is new being highlighted red, primarily while it's in draft form. And then once it's finalized, having everything go back to black font and then moving forward. And that way, when you look at the 49 pages, I could be like, oh, well, this one word in a paragraph is what changed. It's not the whole paragraph itself. Where I think that if those kind of edits going forward, I think we would be able to feel better about a true vote going forward versus right now at this point, the draft form, I feel I would need to read all 49 pages to feel comfortable to vote. Any comment on any of that?
Just that you have all have to know, Rich, myself, and Court had a long conversation about how to present this, and that's a consensus we gave with you, so. Long conversation.
Any additional comments on that? Because it's going to be presented to TTAP.
Friday and board next Thursday.
I will not be at this week's TTAP. So if anybody else would be able to at least express that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll make sure that they have, they gave me kind of the, I guess, general sense about that from CDC. Yeah, I know is able to be, I would basically present that CDC doesn't have a formal recommendation, they don't have any comments, they, in the future, basically made a recommendation as to being able to help the committee focus more on what the changes are and kind of what's kind of, I guess, applicable to the CDC from the policy.
Look forward to the mobility resource guide.
Certainly.
I've got a page up on here.
I don't remember when we, which meeting was it that we went over this recently? Did we go over?
We briefly went through some of it in our virtual meeting.
Oh, okay, that's what,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a sense of it.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, that makes sense. I couldn't remember sitting here going through it. So the mobility resource guide, what was it, finalized in 22, something like that? 22, 23, okay, maybe it was 23.
It came out of the NEDTC symposium that we.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, all right. And so that was an update to an earlier version of that, that we did, on back in 2018, something, 2017, 2018, something like that. So far, based on some of the feedback we got in December, and I think maybe even some feedback before that, there was a few corrections that we made. I made both the Metro service and Council Bluffs service. But then, I guess, besides just corrections and kind of bringing it up to date with current, service hours and days and things like that, there were a few things that were brought up about, what we're showing in the guide. There was a question about the bike share program being in there, and there was a little bit of back and forth, I think, about that. And I don't remember if there was something else. I think that was the main thing that I remember being pointed out. But I kind of wanted to know if there was anything else, like along that line about, what's in there and how it's being accessed. I know I think there might have also been a comment about how we present it electronically, because right now it's just basically just this kind of list on the webpage where we've got some of the major providers on here with a little bit of information on the service and contact information. And then ultimately, if you go, you can get to the actual the printable handoutable guide that lists out kind of all of this service information on it. So I guess what I'm kind of getting at is there, we could enhance this to make it more easily accessible online. And then of course we could include additional information, that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of what we want to know is what all do we want to add to it, kind of the way it's
Is it possible to move that download button to like the top of your screen?
probably, it's kind of a, yeah, it is. It's just the way that the website is set up.
So the website is kind of odd in that way, so it depends on whether you're looking at it in browser, mobile, or what have you. I just pulled it up on my laptop and it already has a download document at the top, just because I'm looking at it in a narrower window. We can pretty easily put another button up there in text that would make it easier to read and easier to find if you're looking at it on a standard web browser. That would be pretty straightforward. Yeah.
And do we have these pre-printed?
Yes.
I thought we did.
But I guess the big question is whether this is, if a full, I don't mean not full, if like a fairly major redesign of it is something that CDC wants to tackle now, or if, you know, after kind of looking at it again, you think that it's fine with the edits that have been made, and because otherwise, I mean, making it more accessible on the website, that's something probably be pretty easily done, but I probably need a little bit of feedback on what that looks like. Yeah, making it easier to access this by, you know, having the button closer to the top, that's fine, we can make that happen pretty easy. But if we wanted to, like, if there was a format, more like a web app format that would make this easier, that's something we could look into, but I don't know if that's, you know, how people in CDC wants to dive into exploring that right now. That's kind of the question.
I think at least having a plain text version of the information would be helpful.
Okay.
I don't know how I don't know if you've ever tested it with a screen reader, but if somebody's trying to use a screen reader to look at this, sometimes unless it's set up specifically so the screen reader knows where the headers are, the table isn't gonna be able to.
Right. Okay.
And I would say, just looking at this PDF, you have cognition issues, there's wide in the text here, just to go through. I know individuals that I work with that would be very overloaded by this information. So if there's more of a condensed version or something where we can simplify the information on here, it's quite overwhelming to be if you struggle with that.
Okay.
The plain text might help in some of that.
Well, I can start with making the plain text version. Well, honestly, most of this is probably already in a table, and it would just be kind of pulling the graphics out and then producing it that way. And then what we can do is I can get feedback on what we can do to kind of simplify that and make it easier to.
When I work with individuals, I typically change my font size to 14. It just makes it a lot easier for individuals to.
Okay.
I know that's not always easy to do online, but.
Sure. Yeah. But I can certainly look at it.
And then line spacing of 1.15 is the normal.
And then I would also say on your right hand side here, you have your different Medicaid services and the number, very different colors, and that could cause confusion also. I would stick to one color.
Okay. Okay.
When viewed on the website, do we, I guess as far as the formats go, do we expect it to be more viewed as a PDF on a website, or something that's downloaded, or the printed form. Yeah. Because kind of, and I don't know if this is what you were hinting at earlier, or something maybe interactive that if somebody was to click on something, having it open up into a more accessible format.
That's something we probably do, it's just not kind of get to it. I think that's the thing. This might just be something that we need to make sure that we're touching base on. I'm gonna look into putting out a plain text version. I think that should be pretty quick. But making it more of an interactive thing, maybe that they will be long. That might be a more long-term goal for updating the guide.
And if the three of us, want to maybe take a deeper dive in it, I think kind of having maybe some checkpoints along with some CTC meetings of just thoughts. Because right now I'm also thinking in just those bubbles. You know, like if it was in like a row kind of format of everything with like the bus logo is all in one single spot, going over like everything marked here is gonna be accessible. Doesn't necessarily have to be a logo, could really just be an X.
Sure.
Yeah. And I guess where I'm coming at is just, you know, looking at it, that I could easily skip a color, you know, in that format without even realizing.
Just a curious question, forgive me if I don't know, if you have this available in other languages if they were needed in another language?
I don't think so.
And the website might, like, if we go that as our future goal, that might be the way to make it accessible in different languages, could be through the possible website.
Yeah.
And just curious, but before it's printed to PDF or saved to PDF, what program is used before it gets PDF? You know?
I don't know. Yeah, I hadn't really been involved in this development, so I'm not.
Because my thought process behind that is knowing that, you know, Word, or it could be Excel, I guess, too, but any of those have accessibility checkers that goes through and checks for the old text and some of the contrasting.
Oh, okay.
Adobe also has an
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know we recently upgraded our Adobe accounts, so maybe we do have that, I'm not sure.
They probably-
I mean, it's probably made in like InDesign or.
I think so. I'm sure that our graphics person had a hand in it, so it might be in the design.
Some ideas, but I would say maybe do a site committee. So if anybody is interested in going through this, I would like to have, you know, CTC comments going through it. I do think less is more. And going into like what Melanie said on the font size. I know with our own marketing, our goal for a while, I know it's been 12-point font. But as far as like an industry standard, it is moving towards 14. So when you think of those larger text size, how much of that could be eliminated in order to make room for that? So, like me personally, I've changed my email to 12-point. And the other part, so talking about fonts, looks like all of the fonts are, because like anything that has some of the little curves, there you go, the serif fonts, those are usually, it's helpful to avoid them. So I mean,
You want non-serif fonts.
non-serif, yeah.
I think you don't want to use time to get them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of like the font and color selection specifically, like there's a lot of MAPA branding and stuff that goes into that as well. We generally use Bravado, I think, for our main text, which I believe is not serif, and then Oswald is for. I also think it's not.
Yeah, so I think we're good there. It would just probably be the coloring piece that.
I would say like having multiple versions, so like the plain text would be good, but like the icons are good for language accessibility. For people who are non-English speaking or limited English proficiency, like those icons would be helpful. It's above the end, not an under. Yeah.
Alright. I would say, yeah, in some fashion, I think it would be good to go through some of those. And also to kind of learn, maybe in the process of some of this could be understanding which one, you know, like which service does what and some of that where maybe we've missed one of the info dots or something like that.
Sure.
So I wouldn't put a timeline on it, but I think it could be an ongoing maybe conversation and checking on.
Okay.
All right, anything else on that topic? All right, infamous 5310 update from Mr. Portman.
Yeah. So just a brief update on a call for projects. We're planning to issue a call for projects alongside NDOT later on in the summer. Right now, I believe that basically means it would be for FY 26 for the following year. And I know that there's been some concern, especially from municipalities, about how tight that is with their city budgets. We'll probably need to talk offline about any of those concerns, like, you know, maybe if I need to set up a meeting with municipal service providers about how to kind of navigate this. I think we can do that and talk about the way that might work. It might be that we just need to ask NDOT to kind of have a bit of flexibility when it comes to that. If you're applying for FY 26, might be that a municipality can't really use it until FY 27. They might be fine with that. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I do want to kind of take stock of what the municipalities need, like what the timeline looks like, almost like where are the trouble months, you know, at what point, you know, can we go ahead and schedule a project for, where do I need to program it, that kind of thing. So if you are a municipal provider and you want to talk more about this, you can shoot me an email, give me a call. You can say something now if you want to, and I'll probably send you all an email. It's kind of what I'm getting at, and we can go from there. We're working with NDOT on kind of like what the application process is going to look like. I think I've said before that the CTC will still be reviewing applications, and it still will be inputting our review parameters on it. So what we have in our program management plan, my understanding is that would still apply. We may need to update the program management plan to accommodate changes to the process. NDOT said that they're going to be meeting with FTA in a couple of weeks, and they'll kind of ask that question about what that should look like. Because right now the programs are fairly separate. So this region has a program management plan that kind of outlines, you know, when we do calls for projects and what the selection criteria are, that kind of thing. This is all stuff that the CTC established. I think the last time we did a major update was 2018. We went through the process of you know, deciding how we wanted to select projects and everything like that through that development of that program management plan. But there will be some impact to the program based on the state management plan. So the NDOT, they have their own management plan for statewide 5310, and we're going to have to marry those processes together in order to kind of move things forward on NDOT's application schedule. And what this will ultimately do is it will simplify things, especially on the vehicle purchase side. Anybody who's, you know, in the vehicle program, and I know this doesn't quite apply to Iowa, because that's all still going to go through Iowa DOT. But it should make it a lot simpler, and the communication with NDOT should be a little bit better on when vehicles are coming and, you know, kind of what the needs from NDOT are for, you know, getting all the vehicles ordered on time.
Hey, Court. Yeah, this is, excuse me, this is Mark with SWITA. We talked earlier, can we check and make sure with the PNP that softwares are allowed in that, because, we're looking for, to do something capital wise with the dispatch software to, for Southwest Iowa and, City of Council Bluffs, since we do handle their SPS program, moving to something that's more user friendly, gives them, our riders some flexibility to schedule rides via an app, and just making an overall easier process.
Yep, yeah, I believe that is eligible, and I'm gonna make sure that, when we do some kind of PMP update, that I'll check to make sure that the region isn't prohibiting something like that, at least not unnecessarily, as long as the CTC generally is fine with allowing that kind of a project. I don't see an issue with it. I think it makes a lot of sense, making the experience better.
Yeah, and Mark, one of the things that you may want to consider, this is Carlos, you may want to consider talking with Metro, and I know there's a lot of back end stuff, but what I would hate to do is within the region have multiple card systems. I know I personally get frustrated when I go somewhere and then I have to download a new app to ride transit. I think seamlessness is the way of the future. So if there's a way you could coordinate with Metro so that whatever system you guys put in works with Metro as well, that would be my ideal world. Will it work? Probably not, but just throwing it out there.
Appreciate it, Carlos.
Yeah, and if you need, to talk to the people over at Metro, let me know. I could twist some good arms over there.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch, because that's a good point.
Yeah, and Mark, I don't know how much you've talked to Susan and people at Iowa DOT, but they were releasing something for the entire state. It was their My Ride thing. It was an online bus and scheduling tracking system. But I haven't heard word from Iowa DOT in a while about it. We used to use that for our travel demand management. So ride sharing and ride matching for van pools, we used to use that a lot. And they went with a new contract. My understanding was that they were going to share that with everyone in the state, but I don't know how far they got.
Yeah, I know it's still in the works. I don't think Emma's released anything about it being set in stone yet, but yeah, they've given us updates on it periodically throughout the last year.
That is all I had on the update. Any other questions?
We have a question from Papillion. Has anybody heard from Model 1 about purchasing buses from him? Fellow named Paul Watson.
No.
I've purchased Model 1 vehicles before. They do a pretty good job.
I'm sorry, what?
This is Marcus Witta. I've purchased vehicles from Model 1 before and haven't had any issues.
Okay.
And if you've got more, if you have more questions about that, I can connect you to Switta too, if you don't already have.
Okay.
One.
Any other additional business or public comment?
I can share about our microtransit public meetings. So we have one tomorrow at the South Omaha Library from 1 to 3. On Saturday at Westroads, view the flagship commons from 10 to 1. And then a virtual one on Tuesday from 12 to 1. The virtual one will have ASL implementation provided. And then all of the sessions will be available in English and Spanish. But we're getting public feedback on the microtransit pilot. We are still in contract negotiations, so there's not a lot of information, like specific information that we can share, but we're getting feedback on things like the fare, the name, feedback on the proposed zones. We're proposing a north, south, and west zone. And then, the other note is that it is philanthropically funded, so our public dollars will not be impacted.
Thanks for sending that out. I think I got that 3 times.
Thanks.
I mean, essentially, it's getting out there, which is, it's obviously good stuff.
The other note that may be of interest to this committee is that, there will be an equivalent service, standard or expectation for people who need, wheelchair accessible vehicles versus non-wheelchair accessible vehicles, so, I'll be monitoring that, and they have to provide the same response time, availability, all of that.
One topic I wanted to bring up, was with NADTC, which were you able to attend that?
I was not.
Okay. So that's the National Aging Disability Transportation Center, where they have a pilot program going on, and they're still in the process of like emailing out the PowerPoint and some of those things that I was gonna share off from going to that. To be completely honest, there's a whole lot of it I didn't understand. Yeah, but the part that really interested me is that it was volunteer based. There was no fees for the riding. Essentially, if you maybe think of just transit, but it was free. So the volunteers their average age was around 65. A lot of the riders' age was averaged around 69. So essentially helping, volunteering to help individuals older, like I said, in the 69 range. They talked about having the driver utilizing their own vehicle, having their own self-insurance. The agency that's kind of the in-between would have an umbrella insurance policy as part of that. And several waivers, it sounds, but essentially it was a free transportation option. And a lot of it was being sold on the idea of adding to the social component of somebody that's most likely retired or aging. And a lot of it was just because they wanted to be social. And kind of waiting on that, the whole like, making friends with the writers and a lot of that, gave them a lot of, self-worth, and that's kind of the notion on it. But they had a lot of flyers focused on that. They used a term that I've never heard before, Alicia, about trans-creating, which it's kind of like transcribing, but having those marketing materials be like rewritten by somebody that is completely familiar with the language and the culture and some of those. So it wasn't just here's a Google Translate or whatever, where they put a lot of time and effort into that. But that was addressing some of the language component. They did put each of the drivers through a full background check, driver's license checks, made them or put them through training, so they are now a mandatory reporter for those particular incidences. But I thought it was pretty cool, at least for the pilot side of things. I'm kind of curious how it would unfold, what it might look here, but I know that transportation is always the number one barrier. I think, at least in our agency, I know in many others too. But I thought it was pretty cool. So when I get the additional documents, I'll definitely send it out to you, see kind of where that might unfold. Yeah, that's what I at least understood from it, so nobody quote me. They have a whole website focused on the idea, but it was pretty cool and really felt nice to have that community focus of, giving somebody that fulfillment of helping others and social, but yet also providing so many individuals with free transportation. So
That's the Everybody Counts program.
yes, yep. Yep, I didn't write that down, but I remember them saying, so, yep. right, thanks for listening to me nerd out on the topic. Was there any other, additional business?
Me.
Anybody else? All right, so we have a motion.
I don't.
Oh, all in favor? You're gonna continue. All right, meeting adjourned.
I'm so glad I did not come here. They go, right? And then we get new training equipment for our operators, so now we actually have ability to fix it with other functional training on.